The Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi series is basically similar to the Budokai series, but it's in 3D this time. And honestly, probably on a Broly boost with how fast-paced everything was. There's a reason why Budokai Tenkaichi is one of my favorite games of all time. This series captures Dragon Ball fairly well as you feel dominating, using characters like Gogeta Super Saiyan 4, but also feel accomplished when you defeat others with weaker characters like Hercule. Do not sleep on the champ! Now y'all about to see the power of the champ here! I have memories of all these games, but especially Budokai Tenkaichi 3. I remember that I had it on the Wii, and during my middle school days, I could not wait to come home and just mess around with all of the characters, because there was such a huge and diverse lineup. I loved the fact that I could just pit different characters from different sagas together, and potentially see unique dialogues between them.
You seem sort of mean.
Irritating little squirt.
Let me just tell y'all now, the Wii became my favorite console for a hot minute because of this game. I mean, it was the closest thing to making you feel like you're actually doing the Kamehameha.
Kamehameha! Kamham!
Yeah, we're not talking about the Kinect either. But let me just say that, yeah, I was kind of a chubby kid. Still kind of am. But I'm on a weight loss journey, so I'm doing better. But back then, I thought this would have solved all my problems and helped me to lose weight. Yeah, the only thing I really lost from that was time, as the hours went by. If my family allowed me to play in the living room for that long, of course. Alright, enough of me clinging on to my childhood since I'm a dinosaur, apparently, to my chat. I will be discussing these games very similarly to what I did for the Budokai series. If you need a refresher on what that was, well, let old me do the talking because I'm lazy and would rather have him describe it. So take it away, old me. To discuss each game, I am going to divide this up to 5 different categories. I won't stay on any category too long, but I think this will cover everything regarding the games and what made them good and maybe not so good. These categories will be storyline, gameplay, characters to use, how the game looked, other modes the game had available, and what if ability. The storyline is just about the basic storyline the game presented us, from the Saiyan saga, Frieza saga, Android/Cell saga, to the Majin Buu saga. Perez and Jordan popping in here though. With all these new sagas and arcs, I do want to say that now I will be more looking at the quantity and quality of the sagas and how they are presented to us that way. Okay, old me, take it away again. For gameplay, I'll talk about how the game felt playing and what I found interesting about it. Characters to use is basically just the roster and going over who is in it. How the game looked will more so talk about the stylization rather than the graphic quality itself. Other modes will be about all of the other modes other than the story mode, and I'll briefly go over them as well. And finally, the what if ability, which is about what the game did to not only make itself different, but how it implemented new elements of the story that made it different than the usual story. With that said, let's get into it and examine these games retrospectively. In terms of storyline, Budokai Tenkaichi 1 was the middle of the road when it came to quantity between the trio of Budokai Tenkaichi games. It's called Z Battlegate, and it progresses very similarly to the previous Budokai games. I'm glad you're happy. Are we gonna...
Alright then, we're off.
You had your standard Saiyan Saga, Frieza Saga, Android Cell Saga, and Majin Buu Saga, of course. But it also gave you a glimpse into other movie arcs like Coolers, Broly's, the fight against Janemba, Super Gogeta, and more. What I liked about this was the fact that we got a lot of fights that often go unnoticed, like the humans training right before they face off against Nappa. All in all, I feel like this story mode was a great introduction to the series to start off. With the gameplay aspect, I give this game some grace. It's the first full-on 3D game with a lot of cool elements to it, but I do gotta admit, it was just a bit clunky. especially in the beginning when I had absolutely no clue how to move around and use my super attacks. Bro, I was straight up a Radix victim then. Wait, I thought I blocked that. That goes crazy, that goes crazy, that goes crazy. This time around, I'm not going to necessarily name every single new character individually that is different from Budokai 3, but I will explain differences that I have noticed between the game. What I can really tell you about this game is that it doesn't shy away from the movie characters like Bojack, Cooler, and Broly. We also get an interesting mix of OG, Dragon Ball, and GT characters like Kid Goku and Tao, as well as Super 17 and Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Regarding how the game looked, it looked very similar to the other Budokai Tenkaichi games, honestly, but it did have a weird shading I noticed. Okay, Bartek. However, I will say that this was a great and monumental foundational piece that put all together the other games in motion from here on out. I can't put my finger on it, but these characters look oddly, I don't know, as if they were from Budokai 3, but also if they inflated them up a bit. I'm sure if you look up Dragon Ball inflation, you'll find tons of interesting concept art from the game. Okay, just kidding. Please don't scar yourselves. Anywho, I did like the character models, and while everything was relatively simple from the stages to the menus, I still had an awesome time with it and didn't mind it. The other modes were cool and all, but at this point, I feel like we know the drill about the World Tournament. You can choose your difficulty, fight through enemies, and defeat them by draining their health or wringing them out. The usual. Ultimate Battle, on the other hand, was actually interesting since it was obviously a foundational piece. This mode would have you start off by fighting a weak character like Hercule, and you would move up until you were number 1. Fairly basic, but good foundational modes for the future nonetheless. The what if ability on this game probably had some of the darkest what ifs, if I'm being honest. You're able to take control of the villain's perspective in a lot of these, like Frieza's, Cell's, and Boo's, and most of them with the world in, absolute shambles and chaos, especially Boo's. That one was really eerie with how it ended off.
Having destroyed every last living person on Earth, Majin Buu was delighted with himself.
Oh my god.
Until a certain realization of loneliness came over him. And now the screams of Majin Buu are all that echo over this land, and there is no one to hear them.
Oh my god. That's so dark. You also get to beat up Frieza a bunch of times with Raditz, Nappa, Vegeta, and Bardock, as well as having an all-out fight, controlling the villains once again from different points in Dragon Ball and defeating the heroes. The last what if you can do is unlockable with the Dragon Balls, which...
Understand.
Wait. Guys. Why... You know what, guys? I am so sorry. I cannot go through that again. Yeah. Oopsies. In any case, you get to play as if you were in a world tournament that has time distortions, with Goku being a kid again and everyone else essentially being an adult compared to him. Lots of cool what ifs here, fighting wise for sure. This time around, I'm happy to report that the second game didn't take a complete sudden sharp turn in its direction. Though I will tell y'all, you better be very comfortable if you want to play this game, because you are in for a long ride, my friend, regarding the story mode. For the storyline here, we're dropped into Dragon Adventure, and boy oh boy, was this an adventure alright. Just to give you perspective on how long this took, my first video on it was almost 5 hours long, and I had just barely beat the Frieza saga and a little bit more after that. I then recorded for, I don't know, almost 12 additional hours and lost all of that audio recording. Sorry, kind of got a little emotional there. Fortunately, I was able to make a video based off of my OBS recordings, and I just did a play-by-play for the rest of the story. What you can expect from here is a retelling of the sagas from Dragon Ball Z to Dragon Ball GT, and also includes the movie stories, The Tree of Might, Lord Slug, Cooler's Revenge, The Return of Cooler, Super Android 13, Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan, BoJack Unbound, Broly's Second Coming, Fusion Reborn, and Wrath of the Dragon, as well as Bardock, the father of Goku, and the history of Trunks. You will fight all of the fights in this game, even if you think they're insignificant. Nope, not in this game. They all matter. I'm just a bit salty that I lost all my audio with them. Ugh. Moving on. I definitely felt way more comfortable with this game. Honestly, maybe a bit too comfortable. What I mean by that is that there were many times where I felt like the AI and I could abuse certain combos, especially at full power against each other, and it was virtually impossible to get out of them. Not to mention that this game was super hard for no freaking reason at the highest difficulty. Still, it was very enjoyable, and I felt like the moves were much more fluid in this game compared to the last game. We get all of the characters from the previous games and then some, now that this game has 129 playable characters in total. We now get Android 13, Kui, Garlic Jr., Grandpa Gohan apparently, even though I didn't get a chance to play him, Hyrudigarn, Metacooler, Pan, Paikon, Salza, Slug, Supreme Kai, Sin Shenron, Tapian, Turles, Oob, Yajirobe, and Zanya, all new to the game from the past version. I love how it was built upon so much at this point. You can definitely now feel the Budokai 3 influence, as it takes reference points from the previous game when you're able to fly around the map to find where you want to go in the story mode. This was cool, but I'm not gonna lie here. When you're fighting the same Cyberman over and over, and they're kind of rude as hell. What are you looking at? I'll beat you to death. Oh my god. It gets to you a little bit. Gotta be honest here. The graphics here don't look so weirdly shaded as the last game, and they essentially look like the Budokai Tenkaichi 3 models at this point as well. I'll be honest though, because of how much time I already put into this game, I didn't even really touch the other modes. But to be fair, they were pretty much just basic reiterations of what the previous game had, with the modes being Ultimate Battle Z, which is like the last one of almost the same name, and World Tournament, which we already know about, so not too much going on here. The what ifs for this game were honestly so hyped though. 3 in particular had a rich amount of lore inputted into them, which was Faithful Brothers, that followed a what if story if Raditz became good after losing his memory, Beautiful Treachery if Zarbon betrayed Frieza and wished for eternal beauty, and Destined Rivals if Gohan got too injured to fight within the World Tournament. Faithful Brothers was definitely my favorite for the fact that it was so emotional for no reason. I definitely enjoyed this game.
Perhaps this was the last expression of the love Raditz felt for his younger brother. Only Raditz knows for sure.
The next game is just absolute cinema. Peak! The creme de la creme. Dragon History was the name of the story mode here, and is by far the shortest of the trio. This doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing though, especially since you can see how different characters react to different outcomes of defeating your opponents. My favorite has to be when Master Roshi actually takes out Broly, much to Krillin's shock. It doesn't matter that he was sauced, he finished it off.
I won't lose to any young whippersnapper.
That's crazy.
Huh? He won? No way!
I love that. It follows a basic saga pattern from all of the previous games, but this time they wrap up the movies into one saga called the Special Saga instead of listing them out individually. With gameplay, this is where the craft gets perfected. We now have so many new integrations into the gameplay itself, like day and night stages, battle replay, Sonic Sway, Rush Keywave, Z Counter, Z Burst Dash, and so much more. They have had years to continuously improve, and this was a sweet spot for the series when it came to gameplay. You could do simple combos and super attacks and still succeed, but you could have easily utilized more advanced combos for this game as well, which makes this a wonderful almost final installation of the series. I also just want y'all to digest this for a second. This game had 162 characters in it, which was almost the largest for any fighting game at the time. This mostly comes from Dragon Ball characters being implemented like Android 8, Chi-Chi. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of how she looks either. Devilman, Tambourine, and General Blue. We also get some cool new characters that generally haven't been in Dragon Ball games up to this point, like Arale, Babidi, Dr. Wheelo, Fasha, Future Gohan, King Cold, King Vegeta, Nail, Nam, and Nova Shenron. In regard to looks, this game is just simply amazing. I am honestly gonna glaze a bit for sure, but this game still somehow holds up for being such an older game. Sure, it looks polygonal still, but I have to respect the dedication and craft this game had for all of its unique stages, characters, and super attacks that had to be animated and modeled to make this game. Here's where the other modes get spicy compared to the other games. We now have Sim Dragon that is similar to the ranking modes from the past game, but we also now have 100 stylized missions to complete, as well as survival mode where you had to go through different phases of Dragon Ball history and survive 50 opponents with each of them. These modes made it so much fun for replayability.
But wait! There's more!
Even past that, we now had the Dragon World Tournament that not only featured the World Tournament, but also the World Martial Arts Big Tournament, Cell Games, Other World Tournament, and Yamcha game that all had unique conditions applied to them. These modes really are what helped make this game into what it was and allowed us to enjoy content beyond just the story mode. It also seems that the developers caught on to the idea that people love the what if stories here, considering that they made a saga dedicated to it. In it, we had Dream Mode Goku vs. Arale, which is exactly how it sounds. Affectionate Android, where Android 8 protects Goku from 16. Galaxy Battle, where the Saiyans like King Vegeta and Bardock all fight against Frieza and his forces. And Unexpected Help, which was Devilman killing King Cold and Mecha Frieza. These provided a lot of interesting scenarios for fans of the series to play through and see what would happen if these ended up coming to pass. I'll be honest here, I genuinely did prefer this trio of games over the trio of the original Budokai games. I know, how slanderous of me. But I think it's because it's what I grew up with personally and what I was used to. Budokai Tenkaichi 3 is what actually got me into Dragon Ball in the first place, so I owe a lot to it and it holds a special place in my heart, with it easily being in my top 10 favorite games of all time. We can see that all of these games had something to offer, with Budokai Tenkaichi 1 offering the foundational work for this series, the second game providing the most extensive story mode in the series, and the third perfecting its craft, especially with its other modes. This has been such an amazing trip reliving these, and it's so nice to see all of the Dragon Ball fans, well, most of them anyways, excited for the release of Sparking Zero tomorrow. It's time for us to be hyped! Get ready, y'all. Y'all are about to witness history not only within anime games, but gaming in general. Thank you all, and stay Dragon Ballin'.
Oh my god, that was so funny!
Okay, I'm just gonna go now. Thanks, y'all.
See you later! Yeah.
深く見果てぬ空よ月は大きな木